Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of RC Retirement. It's been a little while, and now we're going to make up for that. For those of you who saw my episode on enlisted retention boards, we're going to cover the same kind of topic, only for officers this time. And it's a little bit different, and actually a little shorter, so hopefully we can get through it all in one sitting rather than two, but we'll see. So, like I said with the enlisted boards, I've encountered them before in my career. I've had some nasty names for them, like the annual throat slitting, and that was just one of the nicer names. I won't mention what some of the others were. But I have mellowed a bit over the years, and I still recognize that there are many out there who do look at these retention boards as a personal affront, an insult against their careers, and they really shouldn't be taken that way. The people on the boards do not have, some personal bent against you. This is purely professional. But they are purely designed to make sure that only the best qualified people are retained for continued service after the 20-year mark. That might sound like I'm spouting the party line, but it's the truth. That's what they were designed to do, because you're talking about a narrowing number of positions, especially when you get into the field grade and flag ranks. The number of slots versus the number of people seeking them is quite disproportionate. So you've got to clear the way somehow in order to have room. So at least in the Army, the purpose of the selective retention program is to provide career progression for the most qualified officers and provide a force-shaping tool and career management tool for senior leaders, is to prevent that bottleneck that we fear. You don't want people getting stuck at one rank forever. So you have this force-shaping mechanism to clear the way for promotion of others. Now, I have been one of those considered by retention boards, so I can understand the stress of a person who undergoes them. It's not fun. You do have the sense that your entire career is in the hands of people who know nothing about you, and you fear that your career may be cut short for no reason. For some, this seems true, while for others, as we've all seen, a lot of people seem to come out unscathed. Now, I'm going to describe how the boards are set up, how they are supposed to work, and give some guidance on how you can do better when you find yourself being considered by them. Now, my experience is on the enlisted side, of course, but I think I can still give some relevant advice for the officers out there. A lot of it is similar, and we can go from there. Now, Department of Defense Instruction 1332.30, Commissioned Officer Administrative Separations, dated 2019-04-12, so that's this year, allows the branches of service to separate commissioned officers. It specifically rules out warrant officers, so that's another instruction entirely, for a variety of reasons, including, as I said a moment ago, as a force-shaping and career management tool, hence these boards. This instruction is based on a long list of federal laws, which are too lengthy to spell out here, but if you would like to look at Appendix A of National Guard Regulation 635-102, for those of you who like to see such things, and the title of that is Officer and Warrant Officer Selective Retention, then you can see at least a partial list of the laws on which these boards are based. Now, first of all, there's no way I can accurately describe how these boards work in all services. So I'm going to focus on what I know best, the Army, specifically the Army National Guard. Now, those of you out there in other branches who have knowledge of how boards work in your branch, please chime in with comments or written information about how your boards work, all the idiosyncrasies of your branch and whatnot. I'd love to hear about it. How things are the same, how they're different. And then I can even put out perhaps other episodes or at least supplements to what we've already got and have that information available for others. Now, I'm sure, however, that, like I said, everything's quite similar, and I'm, for that reason, going to try to keep everything as service neutral when I go through this as I can. I'm using as my primary reference for this National Guard Regulation, or NGR, 635-102, Officers and Warrant Officers Selective Retention, specifically Chapters 2 and 3. That's my guide, so I don't miss anything. However, since I am using a National Guard regulation and will be quoting heavily from it, there is a good chance, as I said, that there will be differences within your branch, and if you are not National Guard, you need to be wary of that. By the way, for those of you who don't know, if you hear me say TAG, because I might slip into saying an acronym now and then, and I'll try not to, but TAG is the National Guard acronym for the Adjutant General, and that is the officer in command of the entire National Guard of a particular state. All right. Now, I have already posted the article version of this particular episode, so if you are following along in the article version, then you can understand some of what I'm about to say. Otherwise, this next sentence or two is just fluff. So, like I said, I'm going to quote heavily from Chapters 2 and 3 of NGR 635-102. Now, not counting some minor editing, which I did to make it more service neutral, I'm going to read it exactly as it is printed in the NGR. So, sorry everyone out there, I am going to be reading kind of humdrum a bit. And if you're reading the article version of this episode to follow along, that all quotations from the NGR will be in plain text. And then after that, any commentary by me will be in bold italics just to set it off. All right. So let's get into this thing and see what we can figure out. All right. So first of all, the goals of the Selective Retention Board. The goals of the Army National Guard Selective Retention Program are to manage, number one, manage officer grade imbalance and strength overage. 2, ensure that only the most capable officers are retained beyond 20 years of qualifying service for assignment to the comparatively few higher level command and staff positions. 3, provide career incentive. 4, ensure an opportunity for advancement to higher grades during the peak years of an officer's effectiveness. And just a little short commentary by me for a moment. That's to make sure you still have people relatively young, 30s, 40s, 50s, and not having them, obviously grow cobwebs in their brains when they could be more effective in higher positions without those cobwebs. You've all heard the stories, especially from the 1800s, of doddering old officers in their 60s and 70s who are far beyond their level of effectiveness due to age. So, just my little blurb there. All right, so subparagraph A under 2-1 here. Selective retention boards are not intended to be used for, emphasis mine in the voice there, are not intended to be used for, number 1, the sole purpose of enhancing promotion opportunities for other officers. So you can't just let the board, cut out people because you don't want to take proper administrative action. 2, the disposition of officers who otherwise would be processed for separation for cause or other involuntary separation actions. Kind of what I just said there. So if you've read my article on enlisted retention boards, you'll see that the objectives between those and the officer boards are quite similar. Pare down the force to better fit the relatively low number of positions available at the higher levels. They are not to be used for punitive reasons. Some people think they are, but they are not. And they are not to be used for separations. They are not to be used for punitive reasons such as separations for moral deficiencies or fitness test failures. These sort of actions should be handled separately by unit level or higher levels of organization. Continuing on. Zones of consideration. All officers who have accrued 20 years or more of qualifying service for non-regular retired pay as of 31 December of the preceding year and are otherwise qualified for consideration will be considered by the current year's board. For example, officers accruing 20 years qualifying service as of 31 December, calendar year 2019, will be considered for the first time in calendar year 2020. Subparagraph Bravo. States will conduct selective retention boards annually unless they receive an approved waiver from National Guard Bureau, just to simplify all the letters and whatnot here. Board cycles will be conducted from 1 January through 30 November of each calendar year. Subparagraph C. States will submit the board dates no later than 31 December of the previous calendar year. Notify officers in the zone of consideration a minimum of 90 days prior to the convened date. All right, again, the regulation for enlisted boards mentions unit notification of members who are to be reviewed by the board, and then makes mention of reviewing the member's personnel record for completeness. There is no such mention of a review here, so I will say it now. I said that I would give advice to everyone regarding how to help survive a retention board, and this is really the best thing you can do. Update your record. Now, even if you keep a copy of things for yourself, that's great, but make sure everything that you have in that I Love Me book, everything in that I Love Me book is in your electronic personnel record. So when I say everything, I mean everything. All of your training, all of your awards, all of your evaluations, everything that makes you look like you would be a continued asset to the service, make sure it's there. If you don't have it in your electronic record, the board members won't see it. And if they don't see it, then there is no reason for them to think you need to stay in the service. Now, especially when we're talking about officers, evaluations are critical. It says so in the SRB regulation. So it's not just me saying so, but I can tell you from having spoken with people on SRB boards, that's redundant, I know, that evaluations are critical. And if you are missing any evaluations in your eval history, start shaking some branches and get them. If you can't get one, then get a memorandum explaining why. Something is better than nothing. It's better to have a memo stating, something, that for whatever reason you can't get an evaluation for period A than it is to have nothing at all. So take a look at the sample instructions to board members that I'm posting in the show notes, and you can get an idea of the sorts of things that the officers on these boards are wanting to see. And at the top of that list will be evaluations. All right. And one thing that I wanted to say, I didn't write it down, but I wanted to say it anyway. For enlisted people being reviewed, it's up to the units to notify them that they're up for consideration. And for officers, the state level G1, the state level personnel office, notifies officers of their being in the zone of consideration. So another slight difference there. Now, I have seen some unbelievable examples of officers being non-retained for reasons I fail to comprehend. And I'm thinking part of it is very much due to what I just said, not having records updated. Yes, I had the ability to find out back in those days the exact reasons behind it all. I could even have looked in their personnel records if I wanted, but I did not want to do any of those things. I respected the privacy of those individuals and let them, if they chose, tell me what had happened. And I will tell you, though, how it appeared to me from the outside looking in. There was one 06 with whom I was serving at the time who had just recently completed the resident phase of the Army War College and had returned to work. This officer, who was known to be going through this training at the time of the Selective Retention Board, was not retained. Now, I personally was flabbergasted when I learned of this. I don't know how much money was spent training this officer, but I can say that the Army's investment was just wasted by this non-retention decision. I will confess, though, that I was quite flattered when that same officer contacted me a year later or so to ask for assistance in filing for retired pay. And of course, I was glad to help. To this day, however, I wish the SRB had made a different decision. I think not retaining that officer, especially after having just finished war college, was just throwing money down the drain for one, and throwing years of experience out the door for another. All right, next we have, we're already crossing the 18-minute mark, so to speak, or close enough. I am going to make this a two-parter. So I'll come back next week, or not next week, but in a few days, with part 2 of this, and we'll finish up. Because I don't want this to drag on for too long like we did with the enlisted boards. So until then, I will see you next time, and we will finish up. As always, I thank you for being part of my audience. It is a great bit of flattery for me. I'm always pleased when I see the numbers of people who watch my videos and the feedback I get from you folks. And don't forget to check out my website for the other resources available to you. And if you would like to support my work, you can of course go to patreon.com/rcretirement and support me at any level you choose there. All right, so until next time, I'll see you soon, and we'll finish this up. So thanks for being here, and thank you for your service. Have a great day.
If you liked what you heard on today's episode, then please go below and give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to this channel. Also, please let other people know about this channel and the information it can provide for them. If you have questions or comments, then please have no qualms about posting them in the comments section below. Please remember the RC Retirement YouTube channel and the RC Retirement website are not recognized or endorsed by the Department of Defense, the Department of Veterans Affairs, or any other government agency. The information presented in these resources are for entertainment and informational purposes only. Also, the content of either of these resources should not be considered financial or legal advice. Please consult with your own legal counsel, accountant, or financial planner before making any decisions based on what you have learned here. As always, thank you for watching the RC Retirement YouTube channel.